From Carlos Osuita. Let's talk about this story. WashingtonExaminer.com. 3 Nevada men arrested on terrorism-related charges related to causing violence during recent protests to reopen the economy in Las Vegas. The trio, who are white, have ties to a loose movement of right-wing extremists that advocate for the overthrow of the U.S. government. The criminal complaint filed in federal court in Las Vegas on Wednesday said the 3 self-identified as part of the Boogaloo movement and were part of a Nevada-based Boogaloo Facebook page, a term which U.S. prosecutors say is used by extremists to signify a coming civil war and/or fall of civilization. End quote. Now, this movement is no more far-right than Nazism. Here is a very lengthy and exhaustive explanation of what it is. From Bellingcat.com, the Boogaloo movement is not what you think. In a word, the movement is insane people revved up by discussion boards, one in particular. It's every possible ideology. What unites them is insanity and living in a fantasy world. This guy became a symbol of the movement. Picture in the thread, link in the description. What I mean is, the movement said, he best represents us. Well, good luck, fella. In a moment, I'll show you what you're up against. But in the meantime, we have to talk about why anti-government militias and fascists are both labeled far-right. Fascists believe in a centralized, authoritarian, administrative state that controls every single aspect of your life. The movement we're talking about is anti-government. How are they both considered to be far-right when they're polar opposites? The reality is that the movement in question is absolutely incoherent. The best way to describe it is internet trolls who are trolling in the meat world, meaning the world of flesh and blood people. The vast majority are not dangerous. The dangerous ones are simply not capable of much more than lone wolf or squad-sized attacks. The indictment of the men from Vegas shows that they were completely out of touch with reality. We're seeing nationwide destruction. Has it led to a civil war? No, because most Americans, despite whatever problems they have, can't be goaded into retaliatory attacks. That's the sort of crap that happens in India when different sects go at it and murder each other by the hundreds. Think about it. We're all armed. Why aren't we going out and mowing people down? Because we're not crazy. This is where level-headedness comes in. Almost all gun owners don't go out looking for trouble. If we decide to make trouble, everyone will know it. But we can't be goaded into a civil war. In Iraq, both Iran and Al-Qaeda carried out terrorist attacks in order to ignite a sectarian war. And it worked. Americans in this day and age will never do that. Who would fight the Civil War? It's too stupid for words. It's exactly Charles Manson's plan for Helter Skelter. He was a fanatical racist who thought that killing white people would make them attack blacks, who would then defeat all white people. Blacks would take over the country, but they wouldn't know how to run it, so they'd ask Manson to be the king of America. Manson was entirely illiterate. He had no education, and it shows. Discussion forums are bad for your brain. People ask me why I reject conspiracy mongering. Because I know the real story. You have no idea how things really happen. I do. I've made a presentation that I'll use to try to sell my memoir. These massive conspiracies of millions of moving parts are total nonsense. All it takes is one guy. If he's brilliant, soulless, and not in it for anything except his own amusement, you wouldn't believe what he can do. Imagine an evil Trump. I don't have to imagine. So I view the traditional conspiracy theories with impatience. Reality is far more horrible than any scenario somebody invented to become rich and famous. What if the evil Trump isn't in it for fame? What if part of the fun is to remain completely off the radar screen? You know how most serial killers are caught? They play chicken with the cops, taunt them, send them messages. Terrorists also do that. Remember Jihadi John, Mohammed Emwazi? You wouldn't believe how they got identified. And I'm not going to tell you, but I will say that when you make any kind of appearance, you're giving people opportunities to identify you. The conspiracy theories that people believe are all hogwash. Be thankful that you don't have first-hand knowledge of this stuff. I can take it because I want to know, but trust me, you don't want to know. I encourage people to try to not shove things into labeled boxes. Instead of trying to decide the ideology of this particular movement that we've been talking about, just call it by the name it calls itself. It's nothing coherent or rational, and they do not want a civil war. For whatever reason, these people are ignoring the federal tactical units and the armed forces. I spoke before about airsoft, which is live-action role-playing, LARP, that uses uniforms and plastic guns that fire little plastic pellets. The people who think they're going to overthrow the government don't put any time in training how to overcome professional trigger pullers. In the description, there's a video of a German police commando from GSG 9, it's like our SWAT team, wiping out an entire field of experienced airsoft players. So I'm sorry, militiamen, you just aren't good enough.